Hello, I'm Dr. Gloria Horsley. And I'm her daughter, Dr. Heidi Horsley. Heidi and I want to welcome you to Open to Hope Conversations, the podcast. We believe that the greatest gift you can give yourself after a loss is hope, using this moment to connect with others who have not only survived but thrived. So let's get started. Welcome to the Open to Hope Show. I'm your host, Dr. Gloria, with my daughter and co-host,
Dr. Heidi Horsley.
Well, Heidi, we've got a guest on that we've had on before, and she is an amazing person, and she has had a lot of loss, and she has gone on to do amazing things. So why don't you introduce her, Heidi?
Absolutely, Mom. Like you said, Danita Ogandaga, who is right there on the top right hand of your screen. She has gone on to do a lot of amazing things, and she is no stranger to loss, as you said, Mom. By 21, both of Danita's parents had died. She went on to have 2 miscarriages, and she has basically recovered from grief and has achieved authenticity, which is basically what we're talking about today. How do we transform our losses and find hope again after that kind of loss that she has had? Danita has gone on to write 8 books.
Wow.
She's a social worker and an authority on grief and restoration who teaches on the orphan spirit and how you can overcome obstacles, recover from grief and root pain, and give birth to the purpose that is within you. And she has definitely done that. So welcome to the show, Danita.
Thank you so much.
So great to have you on again. I remember the radio show we did back June 15th of 2014, and people can go online and find it. You were just so inspiring then, and you were finishing graduate school, and you've done it.
Thank you so much.
Wow, congratulations.
Got a graduate degree and got 3 kids.
Well, let me first say, I know that it is equal to, it's not equal to everyone. Everyone has their own experience. And what I've come to learn is, over the course of the years, taking the time to have the conversation with your soul self. And what I mean by that is your mind, your emotions, and your will. A lot of times when we encounter grief, it takes us to a place that it's almost, how do we get out of this? How do we get out of this place? It's like a black hole. Mm-hmm. And we sit there and we sit in it, and we have a lot of people that may not know how to respond to it. So they give us their input, and we just sit there and try to process all.
I remember that black hole, and I also remember putting everything in the black hole.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We want to move there.
Everything was caused because he died. There was no perspective. Do you remember that, Heidi?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yes. Everything that happens to you, every feeling you have, you trace it right back to.
Yes.
Not no longer here.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so what I learned is just when we have that conversation or begin to have that conversation, we start to take ourselves through those episodes of truth. And we unlayer, and like you said, Dr. Gloria and Dr. Heidi, we begin to take ourselves through those points of just separating ourselves from what is and what has been and what will be. For instance, when I lost my parents, I did not see a life beyond them. I did not see hope beyond them. And it took years of unlayering. They passed away. I'm still here. What do I do?
Now, Danita, how far apart? You were 21 and had no parents. How old were you when your first parent died?
I was 21 when both of them died, 9 months apart.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
So you quickly went from having 2 parents to not having 2 parents.
To not having any parents. You're right.
Wow, that's shocking.
It was indeed so. It was. I would say when you do the things on your chest and the person is shocked back, it's almost equivalent to that. And that's exactly how my world felt. And both internally and externally, everyone in my external world suddenly became subject to, are you leaving me tomorrow? Are you leaving me today?
So you thought, who's next? Who's going
exactly.
next?
Exactly.
So you had a huge number of abandonment issues. Who was there for you? Who was there supporting you?
Ironically, I have siblings, and my siblings are 7 and 8 years older than I am. And what happened was we learned over the course of the years, it's been 20 years, we're just now getting to the point of having that conversation. And where they are telling me, I know you went to grief counseling. I wish that I could have done that to support you better. But they're just now deciding 20 years later to go to grief counseling. So in the community that I was in Pittsburgh, during my graduate school years, I had an opportunity to meet some awesome people who had experienced different levels of loss. Some lost their pets, some lost and were displaced because of, geographical issues. Some were Rwandans that got lost due to the war. It was just different types of loss. And what I realized is that talking about your truth puts you in a position to heal. And as you begin to heal others, you heal yourself.
So you've moved out and healing others, and you saw them doing that. Now, your parents were both ministers, right?
They were ministers in the Southern Baptist organization.
How did that organization help you? Did the ministry, were they there for you, or what?
They did. I can't say that they did not. They did, but I absolutely rejected them for years because there was no part of me that wanted to be associated with a God that could take both of my parents. And so I went into other religions, Reikism, Buddhism, Rastafarianism. If it has an ism on it, I probably experienced it.
and what did you find out about God? Because a lot of people are asking Heidi and me, how could God do this?
Right.
What did you find out about God? How could God do this?
What I found out about God through the unlayering was that God is a wonderful God. He's loving. His love never stopped. It was the way that I began to see him that stopped. I understood my mother as suffering and my father as not being well. And so I realized that it would be selfish for them to remain in that state here on this earth in that condition. And so when my mother began to say, Nita, and she would grab me by the hand and she would say, Nita, I want divine health. I would say, Mommy, you're going to get it. God's going to heal you. It's okay. But what the unlayering taught me over the years is that what my mother was really trying to say is that God loves you, but he loves me too. And he doesn't want me to hurt anymore. So divine healing for her meant that she needed to translate into another space.
Right.
And she needed to leave this earth so that she could be totally healed. And what I came to learn about him was I couldn't blame him for loving my mother into her healing.
Wow, that's an interesting perspective, isn't it, Heidi? Loving your mother into her healing, which was to leave this earth.
Yes.
Wow, that's powerful. Now talk about your unlayering. What was the first layer that you found?
The unlayering that I had to find was strictly directed towards my identity. And it wasn't really seeing Danita as the daughter of Donald Ray and Joyce. It wasn't seeing Danita as a native of North Carolina or the native of being a social worker. It was really the fact of who am I now? Who am I? What is there that I can contribute? Because grief changes your whole trajectory. It changes your perspective of your offering. And I lost my offering. And what I mean by that is I saw my parents as love. When they left, I couldn't see love through the eyes of God, where they got it from. I saw them. And so when they left, I didn't see love. And my identity had to literally be restructured so that I could see myself for who I was. Because what I realized is that when we go through grief and it changes our perspective, we go from place to place looking for anything and everything to confirm our identity. But if we don't know who we are, we're going to gravitate to whoever pulls first and pulls the hardest. And so the first unlayering for me was, who am I? And what I began to understand is that, number one, I'm loved by God. I'm absolutely loved. So the first perspective that he took my parents through, I was able to come into connection with that myself, to
And
realize,
how long did it take you to do this? I mean, goodness gracious, it must have
you know,
been a sad day. Wow.
there were starts and stops. The orphan spirit clouded my judgment for a very long time, and for years, like 6 or 7 years, where I was just reacting the loss. And even if I would achieve certain milestones professionally or personally, I would attain financial relief where I could, help my siblings or whatever. It would put me back into this space. I'm an orphan. I may know how to get money, but I don't know how to keep it because I had parents, but I don't know how to keep my parents because they died. Right. So I need to unload everything too. So it took years, Dr. Gloria. It took years. Mm-hmm. And up until that time, it was just like I was sitting in that hole trying to identify, but I didn't identify with anything until I lifted myself out. And that was through prayers and meditations and confirming my identity and really God affirming me and letting me know that I was loved and I was capable of being able to function on this earth without my parents. And I couldn't see that prior to that.
What really intrigues me about what you're talking about is the grief journey. Yes. And how people take that journey and go to different areas, and how there's a hope. You've got to have that hope to carry you through it.
Absolutely.
But going to different areas, and Heidi, as Heidi knows, I did a lot of different things, working with Byron Katie and Carolyn Mace, and Heidi, you did a lot of graduate work.
Right.
Yeah. So everybody has their own journey, but the work of it. Well, tell people about how many books you've done and where they can get a hold of you, because I know you're really inspirational, and you also do speeches and talks, and you and your husband do a lot of things together, right?
Yes, we just got back about 6 months ago from our 14th activation tour, and we went to Belgium, Brussels, Belgium, Paris, France, Douala, Cameroon, and Libreville, Gabon. And we taught on emotional healing and overcoming grief. And while we were there, I was able to release my latest book, which is called Undoing, Living a Lie and Calling It the Truth. Mm-hmm. And I had also had that book translated into French. But that book basically talks about everything that I'm sharing with you. And it just talks about our undoing, how we get into that space of saying that we're tired of living a lie and calling it the truth. Now, when we're living, we may not know we're calling it a lie. We may not even be trying to call it a lie. It may be an honest attempt to survive. But once we get into that unlayering, we begin to see that those lies were really filtering us or buffering us from our experiences, and they were really a part of what we needed to do to experience truth. I've done 8 books. I can be found at www.danita.ogandaga.com. www.danitaogandaga.com.
Great. And you can listen to her also on a show we did with her on June 5th, 2014. Open to Hope podcast. So I was telling her we've had over 1,000 people listen to the show already. So you've been such an inspiration to everybody, and we appreciate your being on our show today.
Thank you. I'm totally honored to be in your presence.
Danita, I love your spirit, and I know that your parents are still a big part of your life and are your shining star. I mean, your spirit comes out in them and vice versa. So you're doing amazing work.
Dr. Heidi, thank you so much.
And thanks everybody for watching this show today. And Heidi and I always want to remind you that if you've lost hope, please lean on ours until you find your own, and God bless.
I'm Dr. Heidi Horsley. You have been listening to Open to Hope, the podcast. You can follow Open to Hope on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. To learn more, visit us at opentohope.com and go to Apple Podcasts to subscribe.
I'm Dr. Gloria Horsley. Join us again next week for another Open to Hope conversation. where we invite you to lean on our hope until you find your own.